Welcome to the Firefly Tutors TV podcast, where real teachers from all over the country discuss real solutions for parents and educators alike. Here's your host, Marissa Johnston.
Hello and welcome to The Buzz, brought to you by Firefly Tutors TV, where we talk to administrators, educators, and parents all across the country about current topics affecting school children today. Joining us is Jaime Smith. Jaime Smith has been an educator since 1997 when she began teaching 5th and 6th grade language arts at the Harker School in San Jose after earning a bachelor's in linguistics from UC Berkeley. Since then, Jaime has earned a master's in TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages, and a master's of science in education with an emphasis in e-learning. She has taught for institutions such as San Jose State University, Cal State East Bay, San Mateo Adult School, and the Art Institute Online, and has trained teachers both locally and internationally. She is also the founder and CEO of OnlineG3.com, a WASC-accredited online supplementary education program. Today, we are diving into the topic of homeschooling. It has been an increasingly popular option for California parents after the pandemic. Jaime is here to help parents navigate all of the options for parents. Jaime, welcome to The Buzz.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. But back to your question of other sort of successful strategies, there are two things that I think are really great and unique in California specifically, and they're the homeschool charter programs, the independent study charter programs, and the California community college system. So let me start by talking about the charter schools, because there are these independent study charter schools throughout the state, and they can usually accept students from the county in which they're based and from neighboring counties. And they give you a teacher to help guide you, to oversee what you're doing. They usually give you some funding to apply towards classes or materials. I think you guys are one of the vendors for some of those programs. Online G3 is too. So we get students from those programs who are applying their funding to our classes, to our services. So that way homeschooling doesn't have to be this really expensive adventure. You know, you can Google homeschooling on a shoestring and find a lot of ways to cheaply homeschool. But if you want to take advantage of some of the tutors and classes and materials that are available, but money is holding you back, look into those charter programs, because they give you some guidance and some funding, and it can just be a really great way to move forward. It is a public school, so you're technically not homeschooling, but you have the freedom as an independent student to make a lot of choices. So as long as you're comfortable with the parameters of that school, they won't let you stray too far from tradition. So as long as you're comfortable with sort of how they structure their program, it's a great option to make homeschooling a little more affordable.
It's also a really great option for parents who don't want to go it alone, who are kind of nervous. They're like, okay, it's been a moment since I've done, third grade math, whatever it is. You will have an education facilitator who can help your child as well.
Yes.
So definitely love those.
Those facilitators are often familiar with both traditional curriculum that you might see in a public school and some of the alternative homeschool options in the area. Mm-hmm. They've been helping other homeschool parents, so they've seen which kids sign up for which classes and really enjoy them. So they can be a really great resource for you as well. But we do see a lot of students who come from, a traditional school environment, a brick and mortar school, go to one of these charter schools for a few years to kind of get their bearings, and then think, now that feels too constraining. Now I want to go it alone. I'm ready. I'm going to file that PSA, the private school affidavit with the state, declare my home a homeschool, and just be totally independent. So it's a really common pathway.
Awesome. Kind of like little stepping stones.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then California community colleges are the other amazing resource that we have in California for high school students. Basically, my daughter's high school was community college. She wanted to be able to go out and have these classes, and I am certainly not qualified to teach advanced science and math. And so the community college was just a great resource for her. They allow dual enrollment, so you have to sort of check on their rules. Some will allow dual enrollment from a certain age or a certain grade. And it varies. So if your local community college says, no, we only take students once they're this age or grade, try the next one, try others. And so many community colleges have online classes now that you can start with online classes from really any community college in California. So find the one that's accepting and has a class that your child wants to take and just test the waters and see how it goes. Some people worry once you're doing that dual enrollment, does that mean that my child has to be a transfer student? You know, we've collected all these college credits. So what happens next? But any college credits that you take prior to your high school graduation, and that includes your homeschool high school graduation, those don't sort of count against you in freshman admissions. They just become extra credits that you can take with you. That said, some students fall in love with classes at the community college and want to be transfer students. They say, I have all these credits. I love what I'm doing here. I'm just going to stay, get an associate's degree, and transfer to a university. And that's the path my daughter ultimately ended up taking. Awesome. She did not want to jump through the hoops of freshman admissions and take tests and all of these things. And so she decided to stay and get her associate's degree, which was her high school graduation, which was great because, you know, homeschoolers don't always get those. And then she transferred to a university and shortened her time at the university. So it was a really good pathway for her.
Excellent. And then just to clarify, with the dual enrollment, those are often free, right?
Yes, they can be free if you are taking a limited number of credits and you have permission from your school administrator, which sometimes if you're independently homeschooling, that's you, that's the parent. So there are some forms to fill out, but yeah, you can usually get about 2 classes per session free.
Awesome.
So it's amazing.
And I have heard that some schools will take students as young as middle school age, like 12 years old.
Yes. I know that there was a school we were looking at one point that started in 8th grade. They would start taking dual enrollment students in 8th grade. And of course, if you are homeschooling and you've created your own little private school in your home, you decide what grade your child is in. So there's a little bit of flexibility in there for you as well.
Oh, love that. So 2 courses a year starting in 8th grade. Your child could have 10 college, course credits by the time they are done with high school. That's awesome.
Or more, you start working in summers, there are a lot of opportunities to add in other classes. There are also some wonderful programs online from other universities. Arizona State has an amazing program where you can take online college classes through them. You can collect a lot of credits. It's not that uncommon now for high school students to have basically an associate's degree or the equivalent of an associate's degree, 60 semester credits or 90 quarter credits before they graduate from high school. And that's really giving them a leg up in college.
Yeah, it's for sure. Did you say that they could take up to 2 courses per semester or per year?
I would have to double check, but I believe it's 2 courses per semester or quarter, whatever session it is.
Okay, so I did bad math earlier. It's more like 20 credit, 20 classes by the, and like you said, there's also summer and different opportunities and everything. That is phenomenal.
Yeah. And it's such a good thing for homeschoolers too, because I find that one of the things parents are always afraid of is homeschooling all the way to college. They think, oh, I can't do it. My child won't be prepared for college. They won't be able to get in. They won't be able to do an application because everything's so centered around traditional schools. But if you've got some of those community college classes or online university classes, that can really validate any homeschool learning that you've done. Maybe you were teaching math at home for years and years, but then if you go get a community college calculus class on your transcript, it's very clear to any university that your child has completed a full math sequence. You can't pass calculus at the community college if you haven't done the prior classes. Right. So, if you're worried about that, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't get my kid to college, just think about ways that you can validate their learning, and community college courses are a great way to do that.
So sticking with that, what are some other ways that parents can kind of check if their child is, floating along with the rest of them?
Yeah. So if you're with one of those public school charters or you're doing independent study through your local school district, They will probably require you to do the yearly testing. And so that's one benchmark where you can just see, the kids around you and the state tests and see how your child is fitting in there.
Right.
If you're not involved in one of those, you have a little more flexibility, but you're also floating out there on your own a little bit. So you might want to seek out some other options. They have those books at the library, What Your Fifth Grader Needs to Know. You can always check in on those. I don't love those. Again, we've got that arbitrary standards thing going on. But if you're thinking, am I letting my kid fall behind? And especially if you're thinking maybe this homeschool thing is a temporary thing and they're going to go back to school, checking in with one of those books or just looking at the state standards online, that can be kind of a benchmark where you say, okay, we're still moving along. We're maybe even ahead of the game. Often you find that you get ahead because you can be so much more efficient as a homeschooler. The difference between homeschooling my daughter one-on-one and teaching a classroom full of fifth graders,
Yes.
it's shocking the difference and how much more you can get done one-on-one versus in a whole room.
And the rate of the progress made is so, they learn so quickly, when it is just you and them.
Yes,
because
and when you're
they get to
targeting to
ask
their
you
style.
questions.
Yes,
Exactly. And they get to show you, and you're right there next to them to say yes or no, let's try again, let's do it this way, whatever, as opposed to, like you mentioned, in a classroom with 30 kids, I can do rounds all day long, but there's still going to be someone some way that doesn't get exactly what they need.
Exactly.
And
And at some
homeschooling
point,
removes
you
that.
have to move on with a class. At some point, you
Yes.
just have to keep moving forward. In homeschooling, you stay there with your child until they've got what they need. It's mastery learning. This is a big conversation in education now. How do we implement mastery learning at a wider scale so that every child is mastering the content before they move on to the next thing? And homeschoolers look at that and say, well, that's what we've been doing all along.
Piece of cake. Teachers are sitting there going, or in brick and mortar teachers, I should say, so going along with that, if you have a child that just seems to be stuck on a certain concept in homeschooling, do you recommend like a certain point where the parent moves on? Are there tips and tricks for when a kid is just stuck and, not moving forward? What do you recommend there?
Yeah, sometimes you have to take a break. Sometimes you've gotten to that point and you've tried everything you can think of and they're just stuck. Take a break, go work on some other concepts, work on some other subjects and circle back to it. Sometimes just coming back to it with fresh eyes is really helpful. Also just looking around for different approaches. If you've got one of those box curriculums and you are teaching the way they say to teach and your child's not getting it, maybe that particular approach isn't quite the right one. So then go Googling how to teach fractions, how to teach whatever, and see if there's some alternate approach out there that you can try. As you go along, you'll learn, is your student a visual learner and they want to see these images of everything? Or do they really want to hear things? Do they want to watch videos? How do they take in the information best? And so until you really figure that out, you're kind of experimenting, but that's okay. And it's okay to take a break from a certain topic and circle back later. Sometimes just that break is all you need because your student's gotten frustrated and they're beating their head against the wall to try to learn this thing. So give them a chance to go do something else, feel successful in some other area, and then come back and try the hard thing again.
And that is a really great point. Confidence is key with learning.
Yes.
So letting them know that they are capable, they are intelligent, just they're having trouble with one concept, but they'll get it eventually. Some concepts, too, are more easily grasped at different developmental stages.
Yes.
So it could be something where your child will understand that eventually. They're just not ready quite yet. So I think your idea of your recommendation of, saying let them take a break from it for a while and circle back to it, come back to it with fresh eyes, then that, the next day even could be the day that the light bulb
Right.
goes on. Like, I get it now,
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
Exactly. That's so true. And I think that happens sometimes with homeschoolers who have, gifted students or students that are really high achieving in a particular subject area. They can zoom ahead, but then they might get to a point where a particular topic just isn't developmentally appropriate for them yet. And so
Sure.
you kind of have to skip over that and come back to it later because they're just not there. As brilliant as they may be, as ready as they are for so many advanced concepts, they might not be ready for that one thing. Their brains just haven't gotten to that point. So you
Right.
let them grow and then you come back and try again.
Yeah, definitely. And also bringing back up what you mentioned about look for different resources, look for videos, look for, anything that's going to match your child's learning style and whatnot. That is crucial in and of itself because it's almost like finding your child another teacher, who
Mm-hmm.
will just explain it in a way that others couldn't, and I mean, I was definitely that type of learner where I could have my homeroom teacher hammer it into me all morning long and then get to my sixth period teacher at the end of the day and he says it one different way and I go, oh, that makes so much more sense. I totally get it now,
Yeah.
so.
And sometimes that would be frustrating. I know that would happen to me. I'd be trying to explain something to my daughter. She wouldn't get it. And then dad would come home and say this one thing and she'd be like, oh,
I used to have the same thing happen to me. I would be teaching. Come on, guys. You know this. We've been over it so many times. And I finally would go knock on my next door teacher's door and say, can you come in and say these exact words to these children, please, so that they get it? And he would. And they did. And it's like,
so
I said
funny.
that all morning,
Yeah. It
but
can literally be something as simple as, a different voice, a different tone.
yes. Yes. And I think sometimes it is that kids are tuning us out. They get
Mm-hmm.
too used to us and kind of like the parents coming to me saying, they just won't learn from me. I'm mom. Yeah, we'll get someone in with a different voice, and a
Yeah.
different approach and they'll do just fine. No worries.
So true.
Oh, so switching gears here, tell us a little bit about your favorite book or books in education that would be valuable for parents who are, going along on this journey.
Yeah, I have so many favorites. It's kind of hard to just select a few. But I want to start with the book that actually inspired me to start Online G3. It's called Disrupting Class by Clayton Christensen. And it's a little maybe esoteric. It's maybe not your average homeschool parent's guide. But what I love about it is that it talks about doing something different with education and how that could potentially disrupt the whole system and lead us in a different direction. So sometimes homeschool parents hear, oh, why are you removing your child from the system? If you think the system isn't working, you should stay there and fight to change it and get on the PTA.
Not
Some parents can
always.
have a real sense of guilt about that they've extracted their child rather than staying and fighting and trying to make it better. And I think that book, Disrupting Class, can really relieve some of that guilt because you realize by opting out of the current system and doing something different, you're helping to disrupt the whole system. And that's kind of what we saw with COVID. Everyone got sent home. Everybody had
Yes.
to homeschool and learn online. And it did sort of disrupt the whole system. So now more parents are homeschooling. We saw
Yes.
parents put together these learning pods that have persisted. We saw a lot of really interesting solutions in higher ed. Online became much more popular. And so now a lot of students are taking a portion of their classes online. It's just, I hate to say COVID was a good thing. It definitely wasn't, but there was this silver lining in that it shook things up. So
Yes.
if you want to sort of reframe your homeschooling or your alternative approach to education and think, I'm doing a good thing because I'm disrupting the system, I think that book would give you some confidence. In more of like the parent's guide to homeschooling, there are some great ones out there. There's Free to Learn by Peter Gray is great. And newer one out there is The Brave Learner by Julie Bogart. Those are both really great books, sort of down to earth, realistic books about homeschooling. If you're looking for something that's a little more, I would say maybe traditional, Susan Wise Bauer is sort of like a homeschool guru, and she's also got a a book out there called Rethinking School. So that's another one to maybe check out, especially if you're looking for a more traditional approach and sort of like, the history of homeschooling, because Susan Wise Bauer has been out there from the very beginning.
Absolutely. Those sound excellent. And with what you were explaining with the first book recommendation of just how there are different beliefs, right? Different beliefs that no, you should stay with the system and try to fight from within. But then there is the other approach of get out and show that there are other means to acquiring, a great education and potentially even a better education than what that child would have received. And my main takeaway from that is do what's best for your child. Do you really want your child fighting that fight, being, in the system that you may already know is broken? Or would you rather them get an amazing, viable education that's going to lead them to their success?
Exactly. Your child doesn't have to suffer because the larger system is broken and you feel a need to fix it. You have to teach the child that's right in front of you today and make sure that they're getting what they need. So don't be afraid to reject the system and know that even the alternative things you're doing are changing the system, maybe in small ways, but it's promoting this alternative method that is possible. The more we see these homeschool kids get out into the world as successful adults, the more that will be accepted. So it may take decades, but your work as a homeschooler now will make a difference.
Oh, yes, definitely. Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience so that they can learn more about your resources you provided today, Jaime?
Sure. So I have a couple of websites. My main website is at onlineg3.com, and that's where we offer a variety of online classes for gifted and twice exceptional learners. And I should probably explain twice exceptional. Not everybody's familiar with that term, but it means, a student who is academically talented, intellectually gifted, but also struggles with some sort of learning difference. So, maybe a brilliant kid who also has ADHD or, has dyslexia, something like that. So we sort of specialize in that, and everything's a la carte. So you just pick and choose. We're not a full school. We're not expecting you to come in and do 8th grade. We're saying just come in and pick the class that's right for you. And sometimes that means we've got very young students taking high school classes, and that's fine. All of our classes have about a 4-year age span. And that's another thing that you'll find in homeschooling is you have to kind of break away from that age equals grade. That's not always true. So, get used to thinking, where is my child? What do they need to learn now? Even if that's not what their traditional age grade might be.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then my other website is Jaime Smith IEC, where I do some college counseling, and I love working with alternative students. So students who've homeschooled or gone through community college. I've got some students who are, coming back to college after a break. So I love to work with those students who've taken unusual independent paths, and I like helping them find their new way to college. So I'm always happy to get inquiries there. And if it's a quick question I can answer, I'm happy to do that by email.
Love that. That is awesome. All right. Well, Jaime, it was a pleasure having you on The Buzz today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. This was really fun. I got to talk about all my favorite topics.
Yeah. If you enjoyed our discussion today, please like Firefly Tutors on all your social media hubs like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Find us on Pinterest, where we pin all of our favorite resources for parents and tutors. At Firefly Tutors, we believe every student deserves the opportunity to develop to their highest potential. See you next time on The Buzz.